Today, I found out a truth that I had been put enough learning. I learned that life is indeed communion, a conveyance of thankfulness, of gratitude, for the positions that we're in, for the value of time which we spend, for the value of time we give to others. While I have not yet figured out what is worth other people's time to spend with me, I'm grateful that they do. When I go to a bookstore, I thank the people for stocking the merchandise that I'm going to take so much joy in consuming. When I go to a restaurant, I'm likewise grateful that such things exist. This is a life of thankfulness, 1,000 gifts, indeed. But then there are some aspects which I do not know, which I think are better left in mystery, and better left forgotten, unpursued, even though there was someone who was laughing behind my back as they pretended to be someone other than they were, and now I've discovered who they actually were underneath. Yes, I've confided in the friend who has broken that trust, and my mind is at ease that they were not the source of the leak, so I'm grateful for that. Today, I was reading Terry Pratchett as I took a break from preparing for finals. I wanted to read a short story found within. It has to do with The Thief of Time by Terry Pratchett. Who is Lucy? Sooner or later, every novice has to ask this complex question. Sometimes it would be years before they found out that the little man who swept their floors, uncomplainingly carted away the contents of their dormitory cesspit, and occasionally came out of outlandish foreign sayings, was the legendary hero they'd been told they would meet one day. And then, when they'd confronted him, the brightest of them confronted themselves. Most leaf sweepers came from the villages in the valley. They were part of the staff of the monastery, but had no status. They did all the tedious, unregarded jobs. They were figures in the background, pruning the cherry trees, washing the floors, cleaning out the cart pools, and always sweeping. They had no names. That is, a thoughtful novice would understand that the sweepers must have names, some form by which they were known to other sweepers, but within the temple grounds, they at least had no names, only instructions. No one knew where they went at night. They were just sweepers, and so Lucy. One day, a group of senior novices, for mischief, kicked over the little shrine that Lucy kept by his bedside sleeping mat. The next morning, no sweepers turned up for work. They stayed in their huts, with the doors barred. After making inquiries, the abbot, who at this time was 50 years old, summoned the 3 novices into his room. There were 3 brooms leaning against the wall. He spoke as follows. You know, the dreadful battle of 5 cities did not happen because the messenger got there in time? They did. You learned this early on in their studies, and they bowed nervously, because this was the abbot after all. And you know that when the messenger's horse had thrown a shoe, he espied a man trudging beside the road, carrying a small portable forge and pushing an anvil and a barrow? They knew. And you know that man was Lucy? They did. You surely know that Jan de Trapp, Grandmaster of the Okidoki, Torofu, and Chengfu, has only ever yielded to one man. They knew. And you know that man is Lucy? They did. And you know that little shrine you kicked over last night? They knew. You know it had an owner? There was silence. And then the brightest of the novices looked up at the abbot in horror, swallowed, picked up one of the brooms, and walked out of the room. The other 2 were slower of brain, and had to follow the story all the way through to the end. Then one of them said, It was only a sweeper's shrine. You will take the brooms and sweep, said the abbot, and you will sweep every day, and you will sweep until the day you find Lucy, and dare to say, Sweeper, it was I who knocked over and scattered your shrine, and now I will, in humility, accompany you to the dojo of the 10th gym, in order to learn the right way. Only then you are still able. If you are still able, you will resume your duties here. Understood? And in a footnote, the story continues. The novice who had protested that it was only the shrine of a sweeper ran away from the temple. The student who said nothing remained a sweeper for the rest of his life. and the student who had seen the inevitable shape of the story went, after much agonizing and several months of meticulous sweeping, to Lucé and knelt and asked to be shown the right way. Whereupon the sweeper took him to the dojo of the 10th gym, with its terrible multi-bladed fighting machines and fearsome serrated weapons, such as the Klong and the Upsi. The story runs that the sweeper then opened a cupboard at the back of the dojo and produced a broom, and spake thusly, "One hand here, and the other here, understand? People never get it right. Use good even strokes, and let the broom do most of the work. Never try to sweep up a big pile, and you'll end up sweeping every bit of dust twice. Use your dustpan wisely, and remember, a small brush for the corners." Sometimes it's the people that we don't notice that do the most important work.